Thank you to our sponsors, Imperial Yeast, 5-Star Chemicals, Beer and Wine Hobby Homebrew Supply Store, Brewing America, all stainless steel mash paddle sponsors. Also Hopsteiner and Yakima Chief Hops. Get brewing. What's going on, guys? Nick Lesagore here, Exit 12 Homebrew in the house, in the office of Exit 12 Homebrew, coming at you a little bit different for this brew day video for the Belgian Dubbel Yeast Experiment number 3 of 3 for Brewtubers Online Brewers Club. And I figured I'd do something a little bit different and kind of steer you through our brew day from a behind the scenes perspective to give you our thinking and to just give you some inside tips on, what our process is outside of the normal videos. So let's start this thing up. And hopefully you have a nice little home brew with you, as do I. So cheers as you check out the information on the beer, the grist, the hops, and our yeast choice, which was Imperial B45 Gnome. Here I am taking a little peek-see at the wheat. The wheat's got it's a little bit smaller of a grain than the other grains we had in the recipe. So I just wanted to make sure everything looked good. I did brew the day before, so I was exhausted. I brewed the night before, didn't get to bed till 1 a.m. But the biggest takeaway was that the grain mill setting was tight enough from yesterday brewing our blueberry hefeweizen that I didn't really have to worry about milling the wheat separately. As you can see, coming up, I'm going to pull out, I'm going to mill a little bit, and then I'm going to pull it out to see how it looks. We always do that with every beer that we do. We just want to make sure that everything's on the up and up and that we're not missing any grains when we're in the middle of milling. And then the thing I hate about this grain mill, the only reason why we really got it is that we needed somewhere to put the grain mill. And so that's what the table is for. Put it in the corner and we're good to go. But every time we brew, I have to wipe this thing down and get the excess dust. There's also some sugars that are left too in that rectangle, as you can see. So I wouldn't suggest getting that mill set up from anybody who's from more beer, and it's not fantastic. And then the water profile targets that all of us brewers in the Dubbel experiment had to hit. We had to at least get in the ballpark, and so that all the beers had the same water chemistry, and the idea is that they taste as close to the same as possible minus the yeast. Your boy here getting his muscles going. We need to get a camera. We need to upgrade our camera for sure, and we also need to get a stand that's going to allow us to show action shots, such as in the middle of mashing, of doughing in, as well as during the boil, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Here you can see the thickness of the mash, 1.7 quarts per pound, so it is going to be relatively thin, but we were happy. I was happy with where it was at. And then I go back to it, show you a little bit, pick up some grain just to show you, when you're mashing in, you want to make sure that there's no dry pockets. You want to make sure everything is evenly, thoroughly mashed in, and there's water getting into every little grain. And then your boy here taking a little sample for our pH reading. And as you can see, that kabbalah bang, really excited about that color. It was relatively light, but as you see, it kind of darkens up quite a bit. 5.5 is what we were shooting for the pH. So we hit 5.57. You know what? I'm good with that. I'm not going to mess around with it too much. So we were happy. We didn't change anything. One of my favorite action shots to show is mashing in, recirculating rather, and that clear wort coming through those first runnings, looking really good. And at the end of the mash, we said, it's time to mash out. We like to mash out on all our beers, hit it 170, wait till it gets up to 170, and then let it sit for 10 minutes. We find that it is a part of the process. It kind of helps finish the beer up, and it's just something that we've pretty much always done since we've been electric brewing. And then here I'm going to be pulling up the malt pipe, and I think it's going to be time for us to sparge. I have a little bit of difficulty. We love that table. It's an oscillating table, so it goes up and down. It's a pump that we pump with our foot. Very hot, very hot. Not excited about that. And the one downside with the Anvil Foundry that we got, now they come with little legs, but the one we got is it's very hot with that ring. The ring that the malt pipe sits on, it is very finicky, and if you don't get it in properly or you don't do a good enough job in terms of tight, making sure it's tight up against that stainless steel of the foundry, it can really keep popping out, as you can see. And I get pretty frustrated. You see my hands kind of going up, but that's kind of what you deal with when you have these units. There are going to be upsides and downsides to all of them, and being able to utilize 240 volts, we can kind of sneak past. We kind of forgive some of those other mechanical mistakes, in my opinion, of the foundry. And then, again, we love these all-in-one systems. It's really allowed us to start brewing in the basement, finishing the basement to brew. The Robo Brew that is directly to the right of the Anvil Foundry is what we utilize to heat our Sparge water, at least this time. We have 3 all-in-one systems. We're pretty big morons, Brandon and I. We've said it on more than one occasion. Having 3 all-in-one systems isn't the smartest thing, but if one of them breaks down and we have a double brew day, we're good to go because we have an extra. We're actually thinking about maybe figuring out a giveaway or something, but we're not really sure. Getting in some beer ASMR, letting you hear us sparging there. Nice flow. And as we're coming up to the boil, 6.5 gallons is where we're at. And that's exactly what we wanted to hit. We ended up sparging with a gallon of water, and that pretty much got us to where we wanted to be. And I always love watching the boil here as it's starting the hot break, and it's starting to climb up. So your boy starts stirring a little bit and get it down quite a bit. But that's one of my favorite aspects of the homebrew process. I love coming downstairs while we're mashing in or while we're boiling and smelling that grain cooking. And then this is one of my other kind of ASMR things that I really like. And then I said, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to throw in some firm cap. Brandon loves him some firm cap. So I threw in 3 drops of firm cap, and that took care of any potential boil over aspect. This is probably the best shot that we've gotten of the boil on a consistent basis in a video, and that's because of the way I propped up the camera. Here I am taking a nice little sample here to put in the refractometer, and then I'm going to add the 60-minute addition of hops. And then, as you can see, we're sitting at 0.55, 0.54. The target for pre-boil was 0.56. So we're a little bit low, which is a little disappointing. But as you'll see, we're going to make up for it quite a bit. And then watching the boil, I mean, the 240 volt, it really is just such a game changer for us. It's so much more vigorous of a boil. I can't say it enough than it normally is. Our 30-minute hop addition. Going in, we split, it was 1.19 ounces of East Kent Golding and 1.19 ounces of the Hallertau Middle Fruit between the 60 and 30-minute additions. Very simple in terms of the hops being added. And then at the 10-minute mark, the D90 candy syrup. We don't utilize candy syrup too much, especially in the few Belgian beers we do. We usually don't mess around with candy sugar, but it was part of the recipe. And as you can see, I'm going to start pouring it with one hand, and that is because I'm holding my son with the other hand. My wife had to go do something, and so I was holding my son, and he really is so interested in the brewing process, and overall just the brewery, mainly because he's a 2-year-old. But you see immediately how that candy syrup changes the color of the beer, and that, to be honest, looks a little bit more to style. And then I had to put them down in order to get the last little bits of D90 out. And then here you'll see me actually dump 2 gallons of water from the Robo Brew. That's the sound of disappointment. And as you can see, the aftermath, I cleaned it up a little bit, but 2 gallons of water going down. Not great for your boy near the end of the brew day. I had to take some time cleaning that up. something always goes wrong on an Exit 12 brew day. You can never have a smooth one. And then here we're going to transfer into the fermenter, and that is looking like straight dark brown goodness. Really excited about the way it looked and the way it smelled. This seems like it's going to turn out to be a pretty good recipe. Our hydrometer, new hydrometer from Brewing America, an official sponsor of the Brewtubers Online Brewers Club. And one thing, we pressure ferment, we pressure transfer all of our beers. With these experiments, you can't do that if not everybody has the ability to pressure ferment and transfer. So we utilize the SS Brewtech. We bought this fermenter a long time ago, and I love that sample port on the bottom. I really do. I think it's a fantastic feature to these stainless steel fermenters. Again, we don't really utilize it too much. We use it once a year, and that's to make our In a Lifetime series barrel-aged imperial milk stout, and we just let it sit for 6 to 8 months. That looks just looking like straight chocolate milk, a little bit darker, a little shade darker than chocolate milk. And then we're going to pitch the yeast, B45 Gnome from Imperial. Here I am messing with the blow off there for we're pressure fermenting our blueberry hefeweizen, and we just did a simple 1 liter starter. Funny enough, what we ended up doing with the starter was I was going to brew this beer about a month ago, and so I set up a starter. I went to brew the 200. It was the first time we were going to go to 240 on the foundry, and it wasn't working. And then between that and 5:30 in the morning, my son getting up, I knew my wife was going to have a day, so I just said, forget it. I said, we're gonna punt on the brew day today. First time I've ever done that in 5 to 6 years of home brewing. And then everything just sat. The bucket of grain I had already prepared, the yeast starter. So what I ended up doing this week, as I checked the level of the yield of the beer, what I ended up doing was just pitching a simple, 1 liter starter and letting it go. And even so, I mean, even though I had pitched an initial starter a month ago, this thing was off and running within a few hours. So I knew this was going to be pretty powerful yeast. And, because it was still pretty active, still relatively active when I went to pitch. So there was no cold crash. Usually I might cold crash a starter and then decant. I just threw the whole 1 liter in and said, screw it. And so, and now, you won't see it on camera because this is just the brew day, but we actually had a little bit of a blow off. And so I had to change that out tonight. Tonight it is Wednesday, the 16th of June. First time in a long time, because we don't traditionally ferment, but first time in a long time I've had to change out the initial, sanitizer water tube blow off setup because it's just the thing, beer is going absolutely nuts. And that is that for the beer. And then as you can see, we actually hit 1.077, we're going to call it. We were shooting for, I believe, 0.71. So we actually absolutely killed it on the OG. First time that we've hit 75% efficiency on the anvil. Definitely something that was a huge win for me as somebody who's constantly chasing efficiency. So we're going to continue rolling with that, with the same grain setting, grain mill setting, the same, boil vigor, the same mash temp. We'll change up the mash temps depending on the beer, but that same grist, or thickness rather, of the grain mill, we're really excited about hitting 75% efficiency. So we're gonna continue chasing that feeling for sure. Thanks so much for watching. Go join Brewtubers Online Brewers Club. We got 5 new members last month, which is insane. New sponsors coming on. We got 4 big ones now, as you can see in the intro video. Big thanks to the sponsors, big thanks to the members, new and old. Go over, check us out. Also, check out the Exit 12 Homebrew and Craft Beer Lifestyle podcast. Brandon and I really enjoy doing it. We're getting great feedback, both negative and positive, constructive and positive. So we absolutely love it. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, L'chaim.